Good evening, and welcome to the Cookery of Dr Carbonara, where meal preparation meets surreal imagination.
What's all this then? Who are you talking to?
Putting the pest in pesto, allow me to introduce the ever subtle Stringozzy.
You can call me Ozzy.
It's my own fault, really. It's such potential. Chat and chew, talking meals for lonely people. Ozzy here's my first and last attempt. A complete failure.
Oi! It's not my fault I'm no good at idle conversation. You try spending all week in a flaming saucepan. By the way, when are you going to get some scarers in? I want to spruce up my chalet.
Chalet? You've been hanging around the bread bin again, haven't you? Haven't you? You know Mistress demands toast with her breakfast pâté. She was not amused. Soggy wholemeal, drenched in ragout, does nothing for my bruises. And another thing. Milady is hungry.
You better get cracking.
'Tis time once again for I, Dr Carbonara, to go forth and craft a meal fit for the greatest...
Goof-proof cake?
Goof-proof cake. If you're pressed for time, or like me, your life is on the line, here's an old fail-safe recipe for just such an occasion. So, for this recipe, you will need some eggs, some flour, some butter, and some sugar. You're also going to need some double cream and a nice handful of raspberries. It's a recipe that's so simple, even Ozzy could do it.
Right.
Take how many eggs you see fit. For example, I'm using 3. And then you weigh them in their shells. Then you weigh out the exact same amount of the flour, the butter, and the sugar. First, take a large bowl, like so, and then mix the butter and the sugar together. Now mix in the eggs one at a time.
Ew. How can you eat them things? They look disgusting.
Ozzy,
Yeah.
what are you made of?
Pasta,
And what is pasta made of?
flour and... touche.
Now, after the eggs are mixed, take a sieve and sift in half the flour, like so. Carefully stir. Take your sieve again and sift in the rest of the flour.
You, get you and your sifting.
Now go to your oven and turn it up to around 200 degrees and leave it to warm up. Now, grab yourself an 8-inch cake pan, grease around the edges, stick a bit of greaseproof paper in the bottom. Then carefully pour your batter mixture into the cake pan. There we go. Pop that into the oven and leave it there for about 20 minutes or until golden brown.
Well, what are we going to do till then?
You are going to sit here and keep an eye on Milady's cake. Let's adjourn to the library, shall we? Okay. So, today's story is about greed and gluttony. So, Once upon a time, there was a baron who had a very greedy son. Now the greedy son liked nothing more than to fill his face morning, noon and night with chickens and grouse. One day, the baron finally lost his temper, and with all the rage of a boar on fire, he took his son and he locked him in the dungeon and said, "Until you learn not to be so greedy, you will eat nothing but porridge. You will eat porridge morning, noon and night." So, from this point onwards, every day, the baron would bring the son a bowl of porridge. And every day, because the baron's son thought he was very refined, much too refined for mere porridge, he would take the bowl of porridge, refuse to eat the porridge, then throw it into the corner, till one day, when the baron's son went to throw his latest bowl of porridge onto the pile, which had now become a huge, towering tower of soggy oats. The bowl only hit the pile very lightly, and it started to wobble. Oh, how it started to wobble. And it started to sway. Oh, how it started to sway. And then it started to lean. Oh, a terrible lean. A terrible, terrible lean. It started to lean over. Its shadow was creeping across the floor like a pack of rats. The son barely had time to scream. And all at once, the boy's world came to a cold, sticky, and slightly lumpy end. The next day, when the baron came with the son's daily porridge, he was baffled to find that he couldn't open the meal hatch, or even the door. With the help of a couple of guards, he managed to force the door open, and he was shocked to see what was inside, and the baron let out a wail of fright. Now, anyone who's ever left porridge on the counter overnight will know how hard and cement-like it becomes the next day when it dries. And the baron had no choice but to chisel him out and put him to work, where the chickens and grouse could fill their faces morning, noon, and night. The end. And the moral of the story is... Excuse me one moment, would you please?
Oh boy. Is that it? That don't look like much.
That's where you're wrong, because now we get decorative. Now, once you've taken your cake out of the oven, leave it to cool off. So, tell me, Ozzy, what do cakes and open graves have in common?
I don't know. What?
They both need filling. But before we can do that, we need to cut the cake into 2 equal pieces, so the filling can go in the middle. So, first of all, we take a serrated knife. Stick the knife into the middle, and then slowly rotate the cake as you cut along. That way, we can guarantee we get 2 equal halves. And now we can go on to the filling. So, take a fairly large bowl, half a pint of double cream, and a good strong whisk. Pour the double cream into the bowl, and then whisk vigorously until nice and thick. There we go, nice and thick. Take a spoon or a spatula, get a good pile of cream, and evenly spread it out. Now I'm going to take a nice handful of raspberries and scatter these over the cream.
Bit like a Victoria sponge then.
That reminds me, Ozzy. Where did you pick up that accent? You've never been to London.
Yeah, I have. I've seen the gherkin.
Gherkin? That wasn't the gherkin. It was this gherkin.
Looks smaller up close.
Quite. So, getting back to the cake, We now have a lovely layer of raspberries on this cake. Now we take the top half of the cake and very carefully put it on top. From this point, you can decorate your cake any way you want. I've got a little bit of cream left and some raspberries, so I'm going to use those. And now I'm going to stick a nice little bit of raspberries around the edge. And there we go. And there you have the goof-proof cake. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm running late.
Ah.
Milady. Well, that's all we have time for right now. Tune in next week for more gruesome and ghastly nights here on the Cookery of Dr. Carbonara.